For all things outdoors, listen to the father of two, the Jesus-loving TV show hosting hairy, true-blood American redneck, Ben Cole.
And listen to the outdoor filming, chef cooking, chocolate milk drinking, John Weissmuller. And we are
Rooted Podcast. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rooted Podcast. Today, Ben and I are going to be discussing tree stands versus saddles. I know this is a big topic among hunters, and we're going to deep dive right into it. So, just for preference, I've really never dealt with saddles, but Ben is a huge advocate for it. So, let's just dive right into this. Ben, scenario number one that I'm going to throw you into here. You're in public land, okay? And you've done your scouting and you know where to set up. Are you going to pick a saddle or I'll say a climbing tree stand? And what are you going to pick and what are the reasons why?
Well, for starters, I'm going to pick a saddle every time. And the reason why, there's several reasons why, but the first reason is weight. And depending on how far you have to walk in and out to that spot, you know, making a lot of noise and different things like that, it's a lot easier to traverse a lot of different areas at a faster pace and quieter with a saddle in tow versus a conventional climbing stand. And one thing that I like about the saddle is it's very small. It leaves a very small footprint on the tree. You're not leaving, a bunch of gouge marks behind on a tree. It's very simple to put up too. It's very quick, and you don't make hardly any noise getting up the side of that tree. It essentially sounds like a squirrel, or well, in my case, a 300-pound squirrel scurrying up the side of the tree, So, I mean, man, in all practicality, I think the saddle has changed the game on the public land stuff for that very reason alone, is that you can get in, get out, quiet. It's not very taxing to have that extra weight on your back when you're carrying that stand in and out of different places. Because let's face it, a lot of times on public land, if you want to get to where the big bucks are, they are miles off in the middle. They're not hanging out by the roads. They're not hanging out a couple hundred yards off the road. They are in there. And to be quite frank with you, brother, I don't want to carry a traditional climbing stand for that long. I'd rather just throw in my backpack real quick and go, and my whole system is there. Everything I need is there, from the tether, the saddle, the platform, the sticks to climb the tree with. Everything is there. Makes it so simple. And I mean, really, it makes you more efficient and stealthy all at the same time. So that's my take on that, man. I would hands down go with the saddle every time. And like I said, I'm not a small dude. I'm a 300-pounder. I'm a big guy, a little thick in the hip, and I personally think that a saddle is more comfortable. And I haven't always had this opinion. So I have to give credit where credit's due. Old Mr. Wes Kennedy is actually the one that ended up pushing me towards a saddle, because he's like, dude, I'm telling you. I said, dude, I'm not ever going to wear that. I'm just not. It looks like you're just wearing a big diaper, hanging out in the tree. So, yeah. I was like, dude, there ain't no way that's going to hold my big old rear end. Well, it did. I was proved wrong. And it was the most comfortable thing I've ever sat in, as far as hanging from the side of a tree, in a conventional tree stand. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of tree stands that are very, very comfortable. But for the ergonomics of packing in and out of public land, hands down, saddle every time.
So, as far as the public land goes, I definitely can see the point of using a saddle for everything that you just said. In addition to that, I could see it being effective because if you leave a climber, like I know some people will leave a climber at the base of a tree like a day or two before. That way they don't have to carry it in, like the day of the hunt. And also I've seen people put ladder stands, or more common lock-ons, hang-ons, whatever you want to call them. But I'll say this, a con to that is then other hunters see a tree stand, and people are lazy, and they just go, I'm just going to hunt here. It's public land. This guy or lady did all the work. I mean, there's already a stand here. I'll just hunt here. Versus the saddle, and it ain't there, and nobody's got to know, and you can slip on in and out of there. Now,
that's on
I
your
will
back.
say this: if you are private land hunting, we'll switch gears a little bit. I personally think I still prefer a tree stand, not a climber. I'm talking lock on or ladder, for the simple fact that it's just there. Now, of course, in the saddle game, you could still have your sticks, already there, and you just got to carry your platform, I guess. Is that right? I guess that's how you would have a saddle set, right?
Yeah, typically, and sometimes if I'm going to do that, I'll just use the same sticks that I would use for a lock on. Instead of putting the lock on in the tree, it's just a set of sticks that goes up, and that's that. And that makes it really easy and versatile to move around. And one thing that I think, I agree with you on. I mean, I'm not against regular tree stands by any means, not even remotely against those. But the one thing that I will say about a saddle on private land is, let's say you've got a week of varying winds. Brother, you can just pick up and change trees in 10 seconds. You can go and use your hunt cat or the wind cast on the HuntWise app, and it'll be like, all right, this wind's this way today, so I'm going to go sit on this tree, so that way my scent's not blowing right where they're coming. That's what I like about the saddle, is the versatility. You can, if you're seeing a shooter buck that's coming out, just out of bow range, and he's doing the same thing every single day, back and forth, instead of having to move a big old ladder stand, you can simply just walk down the wood line and shoop, right up that tree. It just makes things a lot simpler, instead of having to make major movements and make a lot of noise and all that stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love traditional tree stands. I love a good lock on that's cozy and all that stuff. I love them. I think they all have their place. I'm just talking about the practicality of being able to move stealthily and increase your odds based on weather patterns and what you're actually seeing in the field without making a whole lot of noise. So, I have to ask you, since you're not in the saddle game, why is it that you prefer a ladder stand or a lock on over a climber?
Well, a couple things. If I'm on public, I'll take my climber. But to be real honest, it's safety. Those are kind of the big deals. If I'm going to be on private land, I would rather just have my stand set. For one, safety, because I have lifelines, so I'm clipped in, from bottom to top and back down. Now, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but obviously that's kind of my thing with the saddle that I really, really like. And I think I'll get in the saddle game, to be real honest with you, being around you. And I was in one at the NWTF show at someone's booth. And so, I could see myself getting into it, because you are locked in from the jump. But anyway, back to your question. So one is safety. Two is I already have stands all set up. So to me, it's like, if I can just do the legwork in the summer, right? And I can run my wise eyes, and I can find a good spot, and I can throw at my stand, whatever it be, then, and I can have multiple stands for different winds, then I can just walk in and hunt. I don't have to sit there and climb and make a bunch of racket and get all sweaty and get all out of breath before the hunt even starts. So that's kind of the reason I prefer lock on or ladders. Cause I mean, as far as private, which is most of the time, but public, hey man, I'm not opposed at all to putting the climber on my back and going, but I'm kind of in the same boat as you. even though technology is great and these lighters or these climbers are as light as ever,
Mm-hmm.
the saddle seems to be the way to go. So I really liked the one we tried at the turkey show.
Yeah.
I was fairly impressed. I do have to ask you this, just as a genuine question, because I don't know the answer, is I don't saddle hunt.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a line coming from above you to like your chest-ish area, right? Like a line that runs down,
And so the tether
kind
goes
of
to your
comes around.
waist. It's so a saddle is essentially like a climbing belt that you use for rock climbing, but it's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as what you're thinking there. So the saddle is it's actually like a big old. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean
You remember
it's
those?
kind of just like a big. I mean, it honestly is like a big diaper you kind of step into. And I
Yeah,
guess I kind of misspoke. I wasn't saying like it attaches to your chest, but it kind of can
yeah,
come across it, like kind of cuts it. So
yeah, right in the middle.
my
Yeah, it
question
just so yeah.
was, does it ever get in the way of you using your bow or gun, or does it really
No,
not a problem?
no, it's really not a problem because all you do is rotate your hips and that moves your position, which allows you to shoot from the side, and that line is actually going at an angle, so it never interferes with your actual shot itself. When you rotate those hips, you're perfect shot every time. And the thing about it is, man, is when I'm locked into that tree with that tether, and I'm a big man. I'm not, 180 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
200 pounds. I'm 300 pounds all day, dry as a bone. That ain't even wet hair. That's just my normal everyday weight. When I can get in that
Mm-hmm.
saddle and I feel the safest I've ever felt in a tree, that is saying something right there, dude. Because I can literally put all of my weight on that little bitty platform, and it is just there, just locked in. And another good value about that is so you're actually behind the tree. So that gives you even more cover, because you're not sitting on the front side of the tree, you're on the back side of the tree. So then you can use that to your advantage of seclusion,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the whole name of the game is being camouflage. And dude, there's 10 million ways to hide a tree stand, to hide any of that stuff, and it all works. I'm not saying that this is a better situation for hunting. I'm saying that it's easier for a man of my stature to stand behind a tree and hide than to try to find a tree that has a bunch of limbs in front of it to cover my silhouette. So,
Right.
I mean, and two, man, it's so simple to film out of. Like I can literally climb up the same ladder you are and then just lock on right underneath you there. Just real simple, real easy, to
Mm-hmm.
the point. And it's just kind of wild how that works, but man, it's I absolutely love them. And they're comfortable. That's another thing. And when I'm standing there at full draw, I don't feel like I have to rush a shot. I don't feel like, oh, well, if I fall, I have all this slack. Dude, I'm stuck right there. I ain't going nowhere. I mean, I've literally sat down in the saddle and took my feet off the platform and just dangled there because I was tired of standing. And it was the most comfortable thing ever. I was like a little 2-year-old in a swing set, like, woo, look at me, mom, no hands. Ah. you know. But now in a traditional safety harness, I don't feel that comfortable. I mean, yes, I
Right.
know that it's going to protect me from falling, right? And I know that it is designed and made very well. I understand all that. But as far as me being hooked to a tree, I would rather feel like, hey, man, I ain't going nowhere. Like, I can't physically go anywhere. I'm not going to fall an inch at all. I'm not falling, period. If my foot slips, well, I'm not going anywhere. I might swing around the tree, but that's it. Then I come right back. So I mean, I'm not physically falling in any aspect, which is what I really like. I don't know, man,
Yeah.
and I use it to set new tree stands. I mean, dude, literally, I can put my saddle on and skirt up a tree real quick with my lineman's belt, and I can literally work with both hands. And then when I actually go to put the physical stand up there, I'll tie on my tether, and then, dude, I am free bore, hands rolling, you know, got all the things that I need to put that tree stand up easy. Dude, there was a time in my life when I used to put up lock-ons by just bear hugging the tree with one arm and swinging that lock-on up there and just getting that first ratchet on. And then I'm like, oh, but then, that was pretty dumb because I didn't have any kind of safety belt on. Nothing. That was back in my young and dumb days when I thought, man, I ain't going to get hurt. I'm invincible. And then I fell. I fell out of a tree doing that. And luckily, I fell on fresh plowed dirt and I didn't get hurt. So that was an eye opening experience for me to put on something, and to not be an idiot and run around thinking, oh man, I'm invincible, man. I ain't ever going to fall. Yeah, okay, sure, pal. Just take one misstep and you're on your back. Promise you. I have been that guy. So, man, it was
Yeah.
yeah, but man, the whole deal with the saddle is just feeling secure. And I like that. I will say when you first start sitting in the saddle, the outsides of your legs are going to be sore after the first 2 or 3 times, but man, it's just getting used to it. That's all it is, man. Once you get used to that and you adjust it the way you want it, because everybody's different, man. Everybody has a different way that they like their saddle to feel and fit. And personally, I like it to be a little more like an actual seat. So I like it to be down the back of my thighs a little further. So it's actually like I'm sitting in a swing. Like you remember when we were kids and we were on the swing set, you know how it just kind of sat right there on your thighs? So that's what I like is for the saddle to sit about right there and then wrap up to my back. That's how I like to sit in the saddle. And dude, I mean, literally, I've just stood with one foot on there and like put all my weight on that rope, and I've never felt safer. I was like, dude, I could stand here all day long, and then if you get real tired, you can just lean up against a tree. I mean, they make knee pads for that. You can just put your knees up against a tree and just chill out, man. Just hang out like an old toe in a flip flop. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's right. Yeah. And the other thing I'm kind of noticing, and I'm sure that you still have to maintain your saddle and look it over and make sure there's no tears and rips and stuff. But it doesn't seem like there's as much maintenance as there is on like a ladder or a lock on that you need to check. The steps and the straps and the actual stand itself, and make sure all the nuts and bolts are good and it's all still well put together and all that fun jazz.
Because you take it with you.
Right. Right. And it's out of the weather for the most part, all that fun jazz. So,
yeah, because, talking about regular tree stands, the weather is your worst enemy on your straps and your cables and all that, especially on those lock-ons, man. When you have constant rain, constant sunshine beating down on that steel cable, it's eventually going to become frail and break. So, and especially the straps that hold it to the tree. I mean, you've got to check those every single season, every year.
Yeah.
You've got to check them. And I commend you for having the lifeline that goes all the way up to the top because, buddy, all it takes is that one misstep or that one cable snapping, and then there you go. That's a quick descent to the ground. So I think you're playing that really smart by having that in place for the safety side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, you just got to have it, dude. Like I have a rule on my farm that I don't let anybody get in a tree stand without a harness. I'm not going to do it. One, because if you're hunting with me, I care about you, and I don't want you to get hurt over being ignorant. And man, it's really just not that important. It's just a deer. It's just not that important as
No, it's
your
not, man.
family. So anyway, I make people wear a harness, and you either wear it and hunt, or you don't wear it and you hunt on a ground blind, or don't hunt at all. So it's kind of where I'm at on that. Which, speaking of ground blinds, that's another way that you could that a lot of people hunt on public just because they don't want to carry a stand. And listen, hunting from the ground's great, but there's something about being 15, 20 foot in the air that you just have a little bit more of an advantage. You could kind of slip in more places than you could set up a ground blind. And I mean, I've shot a bunch of deer from a ground blind, but I still think that maybe that saddle just give you that little more of an advantage. And it's probably, it's not probably, I know it is, it's lighter than a ground blind will be. Even a little tiny single man.
Well, here's the thing, man. When you're up in the air, you're then, when you're worried about your scent, right? So if you're sitting on the ground and you have tremendous wind, you remember that time we were in Oklahoma and we were in that one ground blind on the first day when we saw all those does? If our wind wouldn't have been blowing in our face, we would have been busted immediately because we are right there in the direct line of their nose. So all it takes is a slight wind shift and that hunt's over. So, even with a regular conventional ladder stand or a lock on, man, just being able to elevate yourself, now you're in the thermals and worrying about the thermal game and all that kind of stuff. So it really, really helps, I think, to get above the deer, because then it's not just direct line to their nose. Now, granted, they can smell you from 200 yards away. That's why you have to be so careful with the wind, with your thermals, with all, especially where we hunt. We really have to be conscious of those things because of all the different draws, the mountaintops, the ridges, everything plays into a different factor. So, if there's a really big buck that I'm after and I may only have, a day to get him, I'm probably going to go sit in a shooting house with a rifle. So that way I can seal it up. No wind anywhere. Doesn't matter. If it's all sealed, my scent's not going anywhere. And then when he steps out, just raise the window, kapowie, over, said and done. Beulah land bound, right to the back straps on the grill. That's what we like around here, is back straps on the grill. Speaking of which, John, I've been thinking a lot lately. We need to do an episode on the podcast and the show about taking the back straps right off the deer and putting them on the grill immediately. You want to talk about fine. Whew.
Yeah, we can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. And then there's, I have another great recipe that we can do with the backstrap that I think exceeds the just plain piece of meat on the grill there. But we can deep dive into that another time. There's a
sorry
whole,
to get off a whole whirlwind there, but I just
hey, no, listen, I'm all about kind of. No, I'm all about deep diving into a conversation. I just know myself, and buddy, I'll start talking for 3 hours and it'll be crazy. So, but yes, absolutely. I kind of think that's the main thing about this. It's like, I just want people to have the information on the different types of stands.
Yeah.
The differences of packability, right? The differences of just weight and seclusion, safety, all these different things, right? And then you make a decision based on your hunting needs, whether it's public, private, both, whatever. You just got to pick the best thing for your land, and if all you want to do is rifle hunt out of your homemade box blind,
right.
come rifle season, then okay, cool, do that, whatever,
Yeah,
or if you're
anything wrong with it.
I only hunt, or if you're one of those guys that's just, I only hunt on the cold ground with no seat cushion because I'm a real man. Okay, good for you. I don't do that,
Yeah.
but I'm glad you do. Awesome. Sounds fantastic. Do you? I like comfortable seating and being warm, but if you like sitting on a cold rock, do that. Sounds great. I'm all the way out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about hunting is you can hunt however you want to as long as it's within the legal bounds, But I mean, if that strikes your fancy, by all means, have at it, man. That's all we're trying to do here is just say, hey, this is what we've seen in our experiences. I mean, truth be told, I do prefer a saddle over any other tree stand, but at the same time, man, I have nothing wrong with a good lock on or a ladder stand or any of that. I like it all. I have no preference.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's there and the wind's right, well, guess what? That means I ain't got to carry anything but my bow and my little backpack, and that's all. That's all I got to carry. I mean,
Mhm.
I really think that it all boils down to your necessity at the time and what you're trying to accomplish, where you're trying to hunt, and how you're trying to hunt. There's a lot of things that go into making all of those come together for a successful hunt, and that also goes into the off season. What all have you done in the off season to prepare your land? Are you looking at these wind patterns from years past? Do you know your predominant wind? So that way, when you go to set these tree stands, you already are setting them for the predominant wind for your farm. There's just a lot of variables go into it. But I also think, like, let's say, for example, you just buy a brand new piece of land or you lease a brand new piece of land. Well, before you go throwing tree stands everywhere, why not just take a saddle out and hunt a few times and just observe? I mean, even if it's before season, you could go skirt up the side of a tree real quick and just watch with a pair of binoculars and see what's truly going on in those areas. And while you're sitting there, drop pinpoints on the map, and then okay, these deer are coming from here, they go to there. Sweet. Now I'm going to log that in this HuntWise, and then I'm going to put a trail camera here. I'm going to put a trail camera there, and I can correlate what these deer are doing between those two trail cameras. And now I've got a pattern on them. And or you let your wise eye do that for you, and you get that pattern and you make it a priority to hunt the wind correctly. And as you've mentioned many times, your entry and exit. So if it's your first time on the property, you don't necessarily know what your entry and exit needs to be. So you have to really play those games and make a lot of observations to figure that out and decide, okay, this is the spot for a semi-permanent tree stand, versus the saddle where you
And
could just skirt up a tree real quick and be like, okay, sweet. Now I see what I need to do. I've got all this stuff plotted, mapped. I can throw my cameras out, and then we can make an adjustment for a more permanent style tree stand.
yes, and that's the biggest thing. Is HuntWise, dude, is going to be your best friend whenever you're starting to pick out places to go, whether it's public or private, whether you just bought this land or leased this land, just like you were saying, or it's just a piece of public, whatever the situation, that thing is going to be your buddy, and you are going to be able to use that to your advantage and find spots and other things like that. And just like you said, that's kind of the great thing about a saddle is if you're in a spot and it ends up not being great because you see the deer coming in consistently, next ridge or 200 yards away on a different trail or whatever, just get up and go. Now, of course, lock-ons and ladders aren't necessarily hard to move. It just takes a team usually, where the saddle is, it's just a one-man show basically. But anyway, regardless, I just want to tell people kind of the differences, the pros and cons of each. And, the bottom line, dude, I just want y'all to go hunt, man. I just want you to go find you a spot, get you a deer, and feed it to your family, and have a good time, have fun. It's kind of what we're all about here is, just going out and enjoying it. Because, I don't care if you're in the bougiest stand they make or the nicest saddle on the market. If you're not having fun, you're missing the point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you can't go out in God's creation and see Him at work when the sun comes up over the hill or the trees or whatever, and all the birds start chirping, and it's essentially the woods come to life. And that's a crazy thing to think about, because I'm going to come back with the Bible verse next time, so remind me this. But there is a Bible verse that says, light will always put out darkness, and darkness can never overcome the light. So, next episode, actually, you know what? I'm just going to look that up right now, because I need to just know that exact verse right now. So, here we go, John. I'm going to dive into this and look it up real quick. And so just tell some folks some more cool stuff while I do this real quick.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Just take your time and get it. That way these people can get knowledgeable on it. And I mean, there's a ton of things that that can go into that. And I just hope that everybody realizes that, I don't care what you hunt out of. I just wish that there was somebody kind of giving me the pros and cons of everything, whenever I got started. And I just hope that this helps somebody. So it's kind of all I'm really saying. But Ben, as soon as you have that verse, buddy, just shout it out.
Oh, I got it.
All right,
so
let's hear it.
God created everything through Him, and nothing was created except through Him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and His life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. That is John 1:3-5. So that's just kind of a beautiful reminder. Every day you sit in the woods, you can sit back and you can literally watch the sun come up, and the darkness disappears, because it can never cover the light. The light always removes the darkness. So, that's one thing to do. That's one thing I'm going to challenge you with. Next time that you're out in the woods, I want you to pay close attention to that, because you're going to see, like, all the shadows, they disappear. Everything goes away as the light comes further and further up into the sky. The sun is what we were talking to, which also correlates back to the Son of Jesus Christ and how He lives in our hearts. And our light cannot be put out by any sort of darkness, meaning evil, on this earth. It can't be stomped out. It can't be shut out, because we are light because of Jesus. Period. Leave it at that. Amen. Go Vols.
That's the bottom line.
Tide, whatever. Blue Tigers. However they say it down there in Louisiana.
Well, that's the Wise Eye guys. However they do that, they're the LSU Tiger people.
Yeah, they're the Tigers.
It's starting to get football season kind of time. We're starting to roll in there. That's one of the best times of the year for me, man. You got college football, you got the pros, and then obviously with that comes deer season, comes duck season. It's just a fun time for everybody. And buddy, I just can't wait. I'm so excited to get in the woods and start shooting stuff, and being in camp with you and every other brother and sister out there in the industry, and and my literal brother. I mean, I'm just excited, man. I'm just excited, dude, and I can't wait. And I just really hope that people really understand that whether you're hunting out of a box blind or a lock on or a saddle, or you're hunting on the ground, on a cold rock, as long as you're having fun, guess what? You're doing it right.
Yes, absolutely. You're doing it right. There's no correct way to hunt as long as it's in the law. You can hunt however you want to as long as it's legal. I mean,
if it's
I've seen
you're having fun.
I've known guys sit there and smoke a carton of cigarettes in the deer blind and come back with the biggest deer ever.
Oh yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yep. All day long, dude.
Just have fun. Do like God says. Just get out and
That's
have
it.
fun and enjoy God's creation.
And you know what else they should do? Like, share, subscribe. Please leave a review. Check us out on every social, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the fun things, YouTube. Go on rootedtelevision.com. We have an amazing shop there with all sorts of cool stuff. And guess what? For football season and hunt season, you're going to need sweatpants. We have them and they're pretty freaking sick. They got the Rooted logo on them. So go check those out. So again, like, share, subscribe, check us out. Please, 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 please leave a review. It really helps us out. So, Ben, I think that's all I got.
Well, with that, the redneck is out.
See y'all.
For all things Rooted Podcast and Rooted Television, and I mean hats, shirts, hoodies, and other merch, check out our friends at CH Lone Star Pro and the link that is in our description.